In a previous video, I showed you that we were done harvesting our broccoli and peas, and I just pulled those plants out so I can plant new plants in those areas. And I was doing that, I came across the thought, well, maybe I should share with you how much I water and how much you should water, or I would recommend that you water, and how you can tell if your plants are being watered enough. Now, in the mid-ladder gardening method, if you're using grow boxes, the grow boxes are typically made out of 2x8 pressure-treated lumber. And this pressure-treated lumber is pressure-treated with copper, which is an essential nutrient. Take a mid-ladder, the author of the mid-ladder gardening method book said to put these 2x8s at ground level and to water until you can barely see a little bit of moisture coming out of the edge. And a little bit of moisture coming out of the edge means that the soil cannot hold any more water. And so if you continue to water, you'd be overwatering, wasting water, and you'd be also at the same time flushing the nutrients out of the soil. So using the mid-ladder gardening method in its completeness, in all of its aspects, not just the amazing weekly feed that you can make out of the LDS Prepper Premium Micronutrient Mix, so your plants are healthy and super productive, like you can see these bean plants here, but also in the watering, which is one of the laws of the 6 laws of plant growth. So how much do you water? Well, I actually water different amounts depending on the size of the plants and the time of year. For example, I grow year-round in this greenhouse, and in winter I may water once or twice a week and fertilize maybe every 2 or 3 weeks because the plants are growing slower. You're not going to force feed a baby food just because you're eating 3 meals a day. You need to feed the babies, or in this situation, small plants or slow-growing plants, the amount of food and water that they need appropriately. Here in July, where we're in the high 90s and low 100-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, we need to make sure that they're getting fed and watered appropriately also. And also when they're, producing the most amount of produce. So right now I'm watering at 7:45 in the morning and at noon. So for 2 minutes, 120 seconds a day is all I water. We use substantially less water than drip irrigation because we're very precise with the water, and we know how much to water because we can see by the edges of the boxes if there's water coming out of the outsides. So, if you watch my other videos, then you know that I grow in just simply sand and sawdust. This entire box costs me less than $1 to fill because I get the sawdust for free, and I buy washed concrete sand at the concrete sand plant. It's very inexpensive for me to grow, but I don't overwater and I don't underwater. And a good way to test that is to just simply grab your soil and just squeeze it in your hand. Now when you squeeze it, I'm squeezing as hard as I can. No water is squeezing out of that soil. But you can see that the soil is moist. And so I tell the people, never let your soil dry out. But don't overwater. If you are watering, and it's about almost 10 o'clock right now, so about 2 hours ago this was watered, and there is no water running out of the soil. And the soil clumps together, but when I move it around in my hand, it opens up freely. So this is almost, would be considered perfect soil. With the sand and sawdust mix that I use, the reason why I use sand and sawdust is because it's clean, it's available, it's inexpensive or even free, and it absolutely works. You can use whatever soil mixture you want, but this is the best return on investment I found. So when watering, make sure that your plants always have water available to them, and always have food available to them. That's why we feed them weekly, so that when they need the nutrients, they can get it. And that's why we water currently twice a day for 60 seconds, so they always have water. But they're not drowning in water. The sand provides air pockets and the sawdust that you can see is decomposing here provides the ability to hold the moisture. So don't overwater and don't underwater. You can see I don't use any mulch. I don't have leaves and other stuff here retaining the moisture. I don't need it, and neither do you. The plants will grow big and healthy enough and provide enough screening to shade the soil to retain moisture. So don't do a lot of work. That's going to cause you more work. Once you put mulch across this, then you have a perfect environment for insects to live and cause havoc in your garden. You're creating your own problems. I use the automatic watering system. I'll link a video down below and how that works. And the design is completely laid out in detail in the Mittleider Gardening Course book and other videos I've done on my channel. I'd also like to bring to your attention that the aisleways, the walkways here, are dry except for that little bit of moisture on the edge of the boxes. That means I'm not watering any weed seeds that may be in this soil. So I'm saving water and I'm saving work because I'm not watering weed seeds there. If you are using overhead watering like rainbirds or other overhead watering, you're going to get all the leaves of the plants wet, which means you're going to be able to cause mold, mildew, fungus, and diseases, and you're watering every weed seed in your garden. And if you bring in compost, mulch, and manure, you're also bringing in the weed seeds and all those ingredients, and so you're spending most of your time weeding instead of harvesting and pruning and taking care of your garden. Minimize the work, get the best ROI, return on your investment. Only water the plants at the root zone, below the leaves, and don't water the aisleways, and save yourself a bunch of water and a bunch of time, money, and work. To make watering even easier for me, I've set up an automatic watering system with the PVC watering pipes that were designed by Jacob Mittleider and detailed in my videos and in the Mittleider Gardening Course book. But as you can see, it's 9:30 and the next watering period is at 12 o'clock. And when I change this, how often I'm watering every day for 1 minute, and the start time is 7:45, and the second start time is at noon, as you saw earlier. So without me having to be in here and manage the watering, my garden gets all the water that it needs. And just look at the health of the plants. Just tremendous productivity, and they're not wilting due to lack of water. So I'll go from watering in the winter from every 2 to 3 days to watering, 1 minute, to maybe watering 1 minute a day as it gets warmer and as the plants get larger, and then to 2 minutes a day as the plants get larger and the temperatures get warmer. But never am I over watering, because I can tell by looking along the edge and simply by grabbing soil that the plants are getting exactly the amount of water that they need. So before the soil is drenched in water, I turn off the watering automatically, but there is enough water in here to always have that water available to the plants. Now I know that there's a theory that says you should stress your plants, so especially your tomato plants, to make them grow big, long, deep roots so they have water. But I want to grow tomatoes. I want to grow cantaloupe. I want to grow cucumbers. So I don't want to stress my plants any at all. It's sort of like saying only feed your child every 3 days, because it'll make it want to eat food, and so when food's available, it'll eat it better. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Let me show you how efficient this really is. I'm just going to go ahead and manually turn on zone 2 for 1 minute, and you'll be able to see what this looks like. Alright, so there is the watering system right there. You can see it is watering right down the center of the box, which is where we put the plant food made from the LDS Prepper Premium Micronutrient Mix. If you order actually this week, you'll be able to get free shipping on 8 packages of LDS Prepper Premium Micronutrient Mix. One package will fertilize 4 30-foot boxes for 15 weeks. It's a great value. So you can see that the water is going right down the center. As I mentioned, watch the video link below to how to build this, and get the Midnight Gardening Course book at ldsprepperstore.com to build your own system like this. That pipe there I've been using, actually all the pipes here in my garden, I've been using for 12 years. Simple, easy, efficient, effective, and conserves a ton of water. Minimizes my weeding because I don't water in the aisles. So if you want to conserve water, if you want to minimize water waste, if you want to make sure your plants are getting enough water, follow the instructions in the Midnight Gardening Course book on how to water, and always make sure that your soil is moist. When I'm growing in soil, in the 18-inch wide soil beds, as outlined in the Midnight Gardening Course book, I water once a day and make sure there's at least 1 inch of water before the water is turned off. In a 30-foot row, it takes me 4 minutes to do that. And then I make sure that the soil bed never dries out. And I'm using half the amount of drip irrigation. How do we know that? Because I did a presentation in Utah where we had an engineer who was using drip irrigation convert his garden over to Midnight Garden, and he measured, as an engineers do, his water consumption between the two of them, and he was using half the amount of water as drip irrigation. People purport that drip irrigation is the most conservative way you can water a garden, and he showed that it isn't. That actually the Midnight Gardening method is. Here in our blackberries, which you can see up front, and then our raspberry garden, I'm growing just in dirt, and they're about 3-foot wide dirt growing areas. I don't have sand and sawdust. We don't ever add sand and sawdust to dirt, only if we need to fill a box. Well, this is about a 40-foot row here, about 3 feet wide, and before I put in the plastic watering line, which I just did a few weeks ago, I was using 2 hoses and a bubbler, and it was taking about 40 minutes to water this box. Now with this PVC watering line, just like I showed you inside my other garden with the tomatoes and so forth, I only need to water here 5 minutes a day. And as you can see, the soil is nice and moist. Again, I'm now conserving more water and keeping the soil moist, keeping the plants fed and watered, and I'm rewarded with big, juicy, sweet, nutrient-dense fruit. So I make these videos to help you grow food as if your life depends on it. Have the best, greatest return on your investment of time, money, effort, space, greatest return on production, on nutrition, food density, so that you can literally grow food as if your life depends on it at a very, very minimal amount of work, space, and cost. To learn more about how to have amazing production and feed your family, go to ldsprepper.com, watch my over 600 videos on emergency preparedness, order and use the LDS Prepper Premium Micronutrient Mix to make sure that your plants are properly fed, and make sure you're following the 6 laws of plant growth as outlined in the Midnight Gardening Course book. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if you are prepared, water your plants properly, you'll save money, you'll save time, you'll save water, and you'll increase your yields and your food production.